Discussion on Coral study on stenting in atherosclerotic renal artery stenosis. In the Coral study, 947 patients who had atherosclerotic renal artery stenosis and either systolic hypertension while taking 2 or more antihypertensive medications or chronic kidney disease were evaluated. It was a multi-center, open-label, randomized controlled trial. Patients were randomized to either medical therapy plus renal artery stenting or medical therapy alone. Previous randomized trials on renal angioplasty had failed to show significant benefit in control of blood pressure. Another 2 randomized trials checking the effect of renal artery stenting in atherosclerotic renal artery stenosis did not show any benefit with respect to kidney function. Adverse cardiovascular and renal events were checked in the Coral study. Composite endpoint was death from cardiovascular or renal causes, myocardial infarction, stroke, hospitalization for congestive heart failure, progressive renal insufficiency or need for renal replacement therapy. Median follow-up period in the trial was 43 months. There were no significant differences in all-cause mortality or individual components of the primary composite endpoint between the study and control groups. There was a modest decrease of systolic blood pressure in the stenting group, mean of 2.3 mm of mercury. Final data reported was from 931 participants after excluding one center due to quality issues. Authors were considering whether the medical therapy given to Coral participants can be replicated in clinical practice to reap similar benefits. The medical therapy in the study included angiotensin receptor blocker with or without a thiazide diuretic and amlodipine for control of blood pressure. The patients received antiplatelet agents and atorvastatin also. The trial had enrolled patients with renal artery stenosis of 60% or more. Though this might be considered as a limitation, there was no benefit among the participants with more than 80% stenosis either. Another potential issue was the 210 patients excluded by the physicians. It is likely that physicians felt that they may benefit from stenting due to the severity of the disease. Coral study complements the findings of the Astral and STAR trials, which did not find a benefit on kidney function from renal artery stenting in atherosclerotic renal artery stenosis. Here are the first set of journal references. Second set of references are here. Discussion on culprit shock clinical trial. Culprit shock trial investigated 2 strategies for percutaneous coronary interventions in acute myocardial infarction with cardiogenic shock. It was a multi-center randomized trial involving 706 participants who were randomized to either immediate PCI of the culprit lesion only with option for staged PCI of non-culprit lesions or immediate multivessel PCI. Primary composite endpoint included death and severe renal failure leading to renal replacement therapy within 30 days after randomization. Primary composite endpoint was lower in those who initially underwent culprit lesion only PCI. There was no difference in the time to hemodynamic stabilization, need and duration of catecholamine therapy, levels of troponin T and creatine kinase, rates of bleeding and stroke between the 2 groups. All-cause mortality was 43% in the culprit lesion only PCI group, while it was 51.6% in the multivessel PCI group. The rate of renal replacement therapy was similar in both groups, 11.6% and 16.4% respectively. Higher dose of contrast needed for multivessel PCI is one possible reason for poor outcome in multivessel PCI, but renal outcome was not significantly different in the 2 groups. Higher dose of contrast can also lead to acute left ventricular volume overload and consequent negative effect on myocardial function and recovery. Prolonged procedure in case of multivessel PCI in a hemodynamically compromised patient is another potential cause for poorer outcome. Based on culprit PCI trial results, 2018 ESC/EACTS guidelines on myocardial revascularization downgraded immediate multivessel PCI in cardiogenic shock to Class 3B recommendation. Class 3B means that the procedure is not useful and may be harmful based on the evidence from a single randomized trial. 1-year outcomes published later showed that mortality did not differ significantly between the two groups at 1 year of follow-up, but the rates of rehospitalization for heart failure and repeat revascularization were higher in the culprit lesion-only PCI group than the multivessel PCI group at 1 year. The rates of rehospitalization for heart failure in both groups were low and the absolute difference between the groups was small. It is not sure whether this difference was due to mortality bias. Previous randomized trials for cardiogenic shock had shown that death was mostly confined to the first 30 days. Mortality between 30 days to 1 year was 6.6% in culprit shock trial. This compares well with other trials in cardiogenic shock. Corresponding mortality in shock trial was 6.6% and in IABP shock 2 trial it was 12.3%. Here are the first set of references. Second set of references are here. Review of Griffon study on Selexipag for pulmonary hypertension. Selexipag is an orally active IP prostacyclin receptor agonist. It is structurally different from prostacyclin. Griffon was a phase 3 double-blind randomized placebo-controlled trial which randomized 1,156 patients with pulmonary arterial hypertension. Patients included those who are not on treatment for pulmonary arterial hypertension and those on stable dose of endothelin receptor antagonist, phosphodiesterase 5 inhibitor or both. 181 centers from 39 countries participated in the Griffon study. Primary endpoint was a composite of death from any cause or complication related to pulmonary hypertension up to the end of the treatment, which was defined as 7 days after last intake of trial medication. Primary endpoint event occurred in 41.6% of the placebo group and 27% of the Selexipag group. 81.9% of the events were due to disease progression and hospitalization. Effect of Selexipag was similar in those receiving baseline treatment and in those who were not receiving baseline treatment. Mortality was 105 in the placebo group and 100 in the Selexipag group. The difference in mortality was not statistically significant. 18.9% of the patients had discontinued study medication prematurely, but sensitivity analysis had shown that this did not affect the final conclusions. Subjective elements in the primary endpoints was another limitation of the study. Adjudication by a 3-person critical event committee was sought to reduce the bias from this aspect. The endpoints were decided based on the recommendations of the Task Force on Endpoints and Clinical Trial Design at the 4th World Symposium on Pulmonary Hypertension 2008. 80% of the patients in the Griffon study were already receiving therapy for pulmonary hypertension at baseline. 33% of the enrolled patients were receiving 2 pulmonary arterial hypertension therapies at baseline. A remarkable feature of the Griffon study was that it was able to enroll a large number of patients from a large number of centers spread over 39 countries. Vast majority of patients were in WHO functional class 2 and 3. The study has shown that Selexipag can be used either as a single agent or in combination with endothelin receptor antagonist and or phosphodiesterase inhibitor. Here are a couple of journal references. Discussion on ISAR React 5 trial comparing ticagrelor and prasugrel in acute coronary syndrome. ISAR REACT 5 trial was a multi-center study which randomized patients who presented with acute coronary syndrome for whom an invasive strategy was planned to either ticagrelor or prasugrel. It was an open-label trial. Primary endpoint was a composite of death, myocardial infarction, or stroke at 1 year. A major secondary safety endpoint was bleeding. This was an investigator-initiated trial funded by German Center for Cardiovascular Research and German Heart Center Munich. 4,018 patients were randomized in the study. Primary composite endpoint occurred in 9.3% in the ticagrelor group and 6.9% in the prasugrel group. Mortality was 4.5% in ticagrelor group and 3.7% in the prasugrel group. Definite stent thrombosis occurred in 1.1% in the ticagrelor group and 0.6% in the prasugrel group. Major bleeding occurred in 5.4% of patients in the ticagrelor group and 4.8% in prasugrel group. Authors of the study concluded that in acute coronary syndrome with or without ST segment elevation, the composite endpoint of death, myocardial infarction or stroke was significantly lower among those who received prasugrel than those who received ticagrelor. Incidence of major bleeding was similar in the two groups. Both ticagrelor and prasugrel have been shown to be superior to clopidogrel in earlier randomized trials in acute coronary syndrome. But prasugrel use was only in those scheduled for percutaneous coronary intervention and it had a higher bleeding risk. Prasugrel was given only after the coronary anatomy was known and PCI planned. A previous meta-analysis had shown that ticagrelor inhibits platelet reactivity more than prasugrel. Ticagrelor inhibits cell uptake of adenosine. Hence, it can increase adenosine-mediated coronary blood flow velocity and dyspnea. While the latter is an adverse effect of ticagrelor, former is beneficial. These effects can be attenuated by theophylline. Because of the beneficial effect of adenosine, which is a pleiotropic effect, and higher inhibition of platelet reactivity by ticagrelor, one would have expected ticagrelor to perform better. On the contrary, in ISAR REACT 5 trial, prasugrel performed better. Patients with history of stroke, transient ischemic attack, or intracranial hemorrhage were excluded from the study, as has been the usual practice when prasugrel is given. Here are the first set of journal references. Second set of journal references are here. This is a discussion on TASTE trial of thrombus aspiration with percutaneous coronary intervention. TASTE trial was a multi-center, prospective, randomized, open-label study which enrolled 7,244 patients from the Swedish Coronary Angiography and Angioplasty Registry. Patients with ST elevation myocardial infarction were assigned to either percutaneous coronary intervention with manual thrombus aspiration or PCI alone. Primary endpoint of the study was 30-day all-cause mortality. Mortality was 2.8% in the thrombus aspiration group and 3% in the PCI only group, which was not a statistically significant difference. There were no statistically significant differences in 30-day rehospitalization, stent thrombosis, or rates of stroke or neurological complications at discharge. In a prior trial INFUSE AMI, manual thrombus aspiration was not found to be beneficial in those undergoing primary PCI with bivalirudin anticoagulation. Infarct size at 30 days was significantly reduced by bolus intracoronary abciximab. In the TAPAZ study, thrombus aspiration was shown to produce better reperfusion and clinical outcome at 30 days. 1-year outcome in terms of death and non-fatal reinfarction was better in the thrombus aspiration group, but the number of patients in TAPAZ trial was much smaller compared to TASTE trial. Some of the limitations of the TASTE trial were that it was an open label study and there was neither adjudication of events nor blinded review of angiograms. 1 year follow-up data of TASTE trial showed that routine thrombus aspiration before PCI in STEMI patients did not reduce the all-cause mortality or the composite of all-cause mortality, rehospitalization for myocardial infarction, or stent thrombosis at 1 year. An individual patient meta-analysis from thrombectomy trialists collaboration also came to a similar conclusion. The meta-analysis included only large trials with more than 1,000 participants. The trials included were TOPAZ, TASTE and TOTAL, with altogether 18,306 patients who underwent PCI. There were no significant differences in recurrent myocardial infarction, stent thrombosis, heart failure, or target vessel revascularization. In the subgroup with high thrombus burden, there was a trend towards reduced cardiovascular death and increased stroke or transient ischemic attack. Second set of references are here. These are the third set of journal references.